I used to believe I had the perfect American family. A nice little house in the suburbs, a grill in the backyard, a wife who smiled like she had stepped straight out of a toothpaste commercial, and a brother who was my best friend since childhood. That image was the postcard version of my life, the glossy brochure handed out at the gates of the American dream. But like every glossy picture, the reality behind it was stained with betrayal, cheating, and infidelity. My cheating wife was the last person I ever expected to hold the knife. But as it turned out, she was not just holding it, she was twisting it while asking me to keep smiling for the family photo. The truth did not arrive like a thunderstorm. It came in little cracks. A text message answered too quickly, a phone call that dropped when I entered the room, a laugh that was just a little too private between my wife and my brother. But in the culture I grew up in, we are taught not to look too closely at the cracks. Americans love their illusions. We put Christmas lights on the house, even if the mortgage is overdue. We post family pictures on Facebook, even if the family is falling apart. And we keep smiling at the neighbors, even if we just had a screaming match in the kitchen. I did the same. I thought, maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was too tired from work. Maybe it was just stress. But the betrayal had its own timeline. One evening, I came home early from work, carrying takeout from Applebee's, thinking I would surprise my wife. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes the hair on your arms stand up. I walked upstairs and heard voices, whispers, laughter, the sound of familiarity that cut me sharper than any blade. When I opened the door, the world stopped. My wife, the woman I had promised my life to, and my brother, the man I grew up defending on the playground, were together in a way no one in a family should ever be. The betrayal was not just physical, it was biblical. Cain and Abel had nothing on us. You expect that in such a moment you will rage, scream, maybe even throw a punch. But I froze. My mind went blank like an old television cutting to static. All I could do was stare. They stared back, caught in the spotlight of truth. And then my cheating wife, instead of apologizing or breaking down, had the audacity to say, "This is not what it looks like." That line, the cliché of clichés. In America, we laugh at it in sitcoms, but when it is your own marriage, it is not funny. It is cruelty wrapped in denial. The fallout was not immediate. We had awkward dinners, fake smiles, family barbecues, where my wife sat next to my brother as though nothing had happened. My parents, God bless them, thought I was overreacting. "It is just stress," my mother said. "Family is family. Blood is blood." Americans worship the family unit like a religion, even if that family is rotten inside. But the rot spreads. A month later, my wife dropped the nuclear bomb. She was pregnant. At first I thought maybe it was mine. Maybe the betrayal had not reached that far. But then the timing, the math, the secret smiles between them told me the truth. The baby was my brother's. My cheating wife had not just betrayed me. She had rewritten the bloodline of our family. When she told me, she did not cry. She did not beg forgiveness. She stood tall, almost defiant, and said, "You need to help us raise this baby. This is still family." That word again, family. It was like a curse now. My American dream had mutated into a nightmare, a parody of itself. I was the husband-turned-babysitter for my brother's child, the provider for a betrayal dressed up as kinship. My cheating wife acted as if biology did not matter, as if infidelity could be erased with the word family. And yet, part of me considered it. That is the dangerous thing about betrayal. It makes you doubt your own sanity. Maybe she was right. Maybe bloodlines did not matter. Maybe love was enough. But every time I looked at her, I saw infidelity. Every time I looked at my brother, I saw cheating. And every time I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw a fool. America loves a redemption story. We love to see the broken man rise again, the betrayed husband find strength, the family rebuild after disaster. But this was not a movie. This was not a sitcom. This was raw, ugly life. and yet I felt a strange, dark comedy under the surface. Here I was, the classic all-American husband, betrayed in the most cliché way possible, a cheating wife and a brother who could not resist temptation. It was almost too on the nose, like some writer in Hollywood had scribbled it down after binge-watching reality TV. The paranoia grew. I started wondering if this was bigger than just my wife and my brother. What if the whole neighborhood knew? What if the smiles from the mailman, the nods from the guy at the gas station were not just politeness, but pity? What if my entire town was in on the joke and I was the last one to get it? In America, we do not just suffer betrayal privately. We turn it into gossip, into content, into a story for others to laugh at. My story was becoming a parody, a satire of family values. And I was the punchline. But inside that humiliation, something else was brewing. Anger. Cold, calculating anger. Betrayal can break you, or it can forge you into something unrecognizable. I started plotting, not in the loud, dramatic way of shouting or threats, but in the quiet American way: paperwork, lawyers, strategy. If my cheating wife thought she could demand I raise her child with my brother, she was about to find out how wrong she was. Yet late at night, when I could not sleep, I wondered maybe the joke was on all of us. Maybe the American family is always a lie, a commercial we all buy into, knowing the truth underneath is betrayal, cheating, and infidelity. Maybe my story was not unique at all. Maybe every house on my street had its own version of a cheating wife, a secret affair, a hidden betrayal. And maybe the real parody was believing in the first place that mine was any different. By the time the certified envelope with the DNA results arrived, the entire suburb had already staged a verdict without a courtroom. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a small, humming bomb while the neighborhood group chat argued about virtue and property values. The pastor weighed in with scripture about forgiveness. The Little League coach offered a discount on batting lessons, which felt like a metaphor for aiming at the wrong target. The realtor who sold us the house said that statistical studies show buyers prefer neighborhoods with stable families, and then asked if we could keep things discreet for the sake of comps. My cheating wife brewed coffee as if she were hosting a brunch and not a scandal. My brother did laps in the driveway with a nervous smile and a car that was far too loud for a crisis. I decided not to open the envelope yet. I wanted the theater to keep playing because I had begun to see our lives for what they were, a satire of American family values, a parody so thorough that even the laugh track sounded sincere. The first official inquiry came from the Homeowners Association, which in our town functions like a suburban senate with decorative wreaths. I was summoned to the clubhouse on a Tuesday night that smelled like lemon cleaner and quiet rage. The board president, a retired insurance adjuster in a patriotic tie, called the meeting to order. The agenda listed landscaping violations, fence heights, and in small print a final item: domestic disruption impacting community harmony. I sat at a folding table under a banner that said, "Welcome new residents." My cheating wife and my brother sat opposite me, united like a formidable bipartisan caucus. The board asked if we intended to proceed with a co-parenting plan that might affect the cul-de-sac carpool. My cheating wife said yes, very confidently, because family is family. My brother nodded like a deputy mayor. I explained that the child might not be mine, and also might not be my responsibility, which seemed like a reasonable statement, but was received like a treason confession. The treasurer said harmony matters more than biology. Harmony in America frequently means the loudest secret wins. From there, the satire expanded, as if the whole town had been waiting for a scandal to justify its committees. The Parent-Teacher Association invited us to a restorative circle in the middle school cafeteria, where motivational posters urged courage, kindness, and respect, while the vending machine refused to accept cash. A guidance counselor with a voice like warm tea asked me to practice a forgiveness exercise. I said that forgiveness was above my current pay grade. The counselor said that betrayal can be composted into growth. I said that compost usually smells like something died, which felt accurate. My cheating wife shared a speech about resilience and the American family. She spoke about second chances and the need to transcend infidelity. It was oddly inspirational, like a keynote address at a conference for ethically flexible marriages. The parents applauded because applause is the currency of community events, and no one wants change without a receipt. If you want to understand modern America, attend a gender reveal party that happens 3 months before a birth and 10 months after the truth died. My cheating wife decided that our town needed a spectacle. She rented a park pavilion, hired a drone photographer, and ordered smoke cannons the size of patriotic fireworks. My brother designed a playlist that included sentimental country ballads and motivational hip-hop. It felt like a truce parade for a war that I did not agree to stop fighting. My parents came with potato salad and an expression of forced unity, because in our family we perform agreement like it is a sacrament. Neighbors brought folding chairs and ring lights. When the moment came, my cheating wife counted down like a game show host. The smoke burst pink and the crowd roared. Even the geese looked impressed. My brother hugged her in public, a soft, triumphant hug that suggested that love had conquered consequences. A stranger handed me a cupcake with pink frosting and said that everything happens for a reason. I said that sometimes the reason is cheating. The stranger nodded as if I had shared a proverb. However, beneath the cheerleading, there was a darker current, a whisper that the betrayal had hidden architects. My barber told me that the town council president and the pastor play poker with my brother. The grocery cashier said she had seen my cheating wife meeting with a woman from a boutique public relations agency that specializes in reputation crises. The guy at the gas station said that drone photographers do not come cheap unless there is a corporate sponsor. He suspected a silent sponsor. Suddenly, it felt like infidelity had a marketing budget. I began collecting clues with the same meticulous silence that once organized our spice rack. Receipts, text threads, calendar invites. The conspiracy was not cinematic. It was administrative. Forms and favors, private meetings behind public smiles. This is how power works in polite places. Betrayal wears a cardigan. The next reversal came from my brother, who requested that I be the baby's godfather. He made the request during a family dinner where the lasagna was layered like talking points. My parents beamed as if the proposal were the solution to the American deficit. My brother said that godfather status would honor our bond, would keep the family circle unbroken, would rewrite the story into something noble. My cheating wife added that it would demonstrate maturity to the town. She spoke like a press secretary. I asked if either of them understood that I was still a person with a heartbeat. My mother cleared her throat and mentioned how holidays are easier when everyone cooperates. My father asked me to think of the child. The child, a word so pure that it erases adult culpability. I realized that in this story, my brother wanted me as a shield, and my cheating wife wanted me as a brand. American culture loves a reformed man more than a justified boundary. When the DNA envelope finally left the counter and entered my hands, I took it to the garage like contraband. The overhead light was theatrical, the paper sliced open with a small hiss. Results are mindless, numbers and probabilities and phrases that ruin dinner. I read the conclusion. Then I read it again. Then I laughed. It was a full, clean laugh that startled me with its ease. Not because the child was mine or not mine, but because the science did not matter to the story the town had already written. I could post the results on every mailbox, and still the neighborhood would ask me to bring potato salad to the next event. In America, truth is a negotiable instrument, endorsed on the back and passed along at a discount. So I designed my own spectacle. I invited the same crowd that had attended the gender reveal. I booked the same drone. I catered from the same barbecue truck because continuity sells. I titled the event The Reveal That Actually Matters, which I admit sounded smug, but satire requires a little arrogance. My cheating wife arrived in a pale dress that photographed well. My brother wore a baseball cap and a hero's grin. My parents wore hope like a fragile boutonniere. When the crowd settled, I told a story in reverse. I started with the DNA envelope in the garage, then the HOA tribunal, then the cafeteria sermon, then the pink smoke cannon explosion, and finally the first quiet crack, the text that answered itself too quickly. I described betrayal as a civic project, infidelity as a community outreach program, cheating as a small business with a grant from the culture. People laughed at the jokes. People nodded at the insights. No one asked me to stop. Then I did the un-American thing. I refused the role. I said I would not be the godfather. I said I would not co-parent a story that I did not write. I said the word no as if it were a sacrament. I promised child support if the law required it, and compassion if the heart demanded it. But I would not help launder a narrative into virtue. My brother's grin dried into confusion. My cheating wife's public poise cracked into a private fury I had not seen yet. The crowd looked between us like a tennis audience that had suddenly noticed the scoreboard was fake. The drone hovered, unsure what to celebrate. Afterward, in the quiet alley behind the park, my brother followed me. He said the family needed unity. He said the town needed a happy ending. He said that forgiveness is what men do. I told him that accountability is what men do. He said that he loved her. I said that love without truth is a costume. He asked me what I would do now that I had blown up the image. I told him that images are cheap. He asked me what about the child. I said the child deserves honesty, and that honesty begins with naming the thing that happened. He said I was cruel. I said that cruelty had already happened, and that I was merely refusing to sell it as kindness. He left without a punch, which felt new and adult, or possibly defeat. That night I sat in the living room that once looked like a brochure, and I watched the ceiling fan cut the air into quarters. My phone pulsed with messages, some praising my speech, some condemning it, most asking for a recap, because apparently it was hard to hear over the barbecue truck generator. I opened the neighborhood app and found a new thread titled Community Reflections on Recent Event. I closed it. The house hummed with ordinary appliances, that low hymn of American domestic life. My cheating wife did not come home. My brother did not text. My parents sent a heart emoji, which I ignored because a heart should not be outsourced to the keyboard. In the morning, I wrote a list, because lists feel like control. Lawyer, therapist, real estate agent, locksmith. All of them tools for a different kind of reveal, the slow unveiling of a life that does not need an audience. The town could keep its committees and carnivals. I would keep my boundaries. I placed the DNA results in a folder with my name on it, not because the numbers would change anyone else, but because they had already changed me. The final irony was simple and hard. The perfect family was a myth, but the person I could be after myth was real. The laugh track had gone silent. The stage lights were off. The next scene would have no drone. And yet, in the quiet, I finally felt like the story might belong to me. The third act of an American tragedy does not open with thunder or fire. It opens with paperwork. Divorce papers slid across the kitchen table like a deck of cards dealt by an indifferent dealer. My cheating wife barely blinked when she saw them. She stirred her coffee, added cream, and asked if I wanted to go through mediation. Her voice was calm, clinical, like she was negotiating the sale of a used car. The betrayal had aged into bureaucracy. I watched her sign her name, a neat loop at the end, as though infidelity could be notarized. She passed the pen to me with the same hand that once wore the wedding ring, and for a moment I felt as if the entire history of our family had been condensed into black ink on legal stationery. America is good at turning passion into contracts. That is why we have prenups, NDAs, and entire industries built around betrayal. My brother, of course, tried to step in. He knocked on the door the next evening carrying a casserole dish, as if melted cheese could erase infidelity. He said that we needed to talk like men, that family comes before paperwork, that the neighbors were starting to whisper about how I was ruining the image of unity. I told him that unity built on cheating was not unity at all. It was theater, and bad theater at that. He said that Americans believe in forgiveness. I told him Americans also believe in lawsuits and that the two are not mutually exclusive. He left the casserole, and I threw it away untouched. Betrayal tastes worse reheated. The satire deepened when my parents staged what they called an intervention dinner. It took place in a chain restaurant with artificial candles and laminated menus, sticky with nostalgia. They sat me at the head of the booth like I was a witness in a courtroom. My mother held my hand and said that sometimes women make mistakes, sometimes brothers fall short, but family must remain. My father nodded and said that in the end, we all share the same last name. My cheating wife, who had been invited without my consent, leaned across the table and announced that therapy could fix everything. She spoke of rebuilding trust, as if trust were drywall you could patch with enough elbow grease. My brother raised his glass to new beginnings. I raised mine to endings. The waiter asked if we wanted dessert, and I said yes, because betrayal tastes slightly better with whipped cream. But beneath the parody of family counseling in a restaurant booth, I felt the conspiracy I had sensed earlier begin to surface again. A local news blogger had picked up my story, framing it as a morality tale about suburban infidelity. The headline read, "Cheating wife pregnant by husband's brother. Can this American family survive?" My face was blurred in the photos, but the house was not. The comment section became a battleground. Strangers debated my masculinity, my brother's selfishness, my cheating wife's resilience. Some said I was weak for not throwing them both out sooner. Others said I was strong for even considering raising the child. A few suggested it was all staged, a hoax for clicks. And maybe they were right, because by then my life had become indistinguishable from content. I began seeing cameras where there were none. The drone from the gender reveal had infected my imagination. Every time I walked to the mailbox, I imagined an audience. Every time I argued with my cheating wife on the porch, I pictured a laugh track. America does not let betrayal remain private. We turn it into entertainment. Reality television without the contract, gossip without the paycheck. My neighbors started dropping phrases like character arc and plot twist into casual conversation. The gas station clerk told me that my saga was better than Netflix. Even the pastor suggested that confession could double as a podcast. So I leaned into it. If they wanted a show, I would give them one. I started narrating my life out loud in the grocery store, speaking to invisible viewers. I described the cereal aisle as a metaphor for choice, betrayal hidden among boxes of promises. I pointed to the frozen food section and called it the American Dream on ice. People laughed, but they also listened. It was parody, but it was also catharsis. My cheating wife hated it. She said I was embarrassing her. My brother said I was losing my mind. I told them both that minds are overrated when you are living inside a satire. But satire has limits. The baby was coming, and no amount of humor could delay that. My cheating wife scheduled a baby shower, complete with pastel balloons and a registry full of contradictions. Diapers next to wine glasses, bassinets next to self-help books about forgiveness. She insisted I attend. I did because sometimes showing up is the most powerful form of resistance. The gifts piled high, a mountain of consumer faith in a future built on betrayal. My brother hovered like a nervous co-host. My cheating wife glowed like a politician announcing re-election. And me? I gave a single gift, a framed copy of the DNA results, wrapped in silver paper tied with a bow. When she opened it, the room went silent. Then someone laughed. Then everyone laughed. The line between tragedy and comedy dissolved completely. Later that night, when the guests were gone and the balloons sagged in the corner, my cheating wife screamed at me. She said I had humiliated her. She said I had turned our family into a circus. She said I had destroyed the last chance at harmony. I told her harmony had been destroyed the day she chose betrayal over loyalty, infidelity over honesty, my brother over me. She cried, but the tears looked rehearsed, like a performance for an audience that had already gone home. My brother tried to console her, and I realized then that I was not angry anymore. I was simply free. Betrayal had burned everything down, but in the ashes there was clarity. The next morning I packed a bag, clothes, documents, a few photos that still mattered. I left the rest behind. My parents begged me to stay. My brother begged me to reconsider. My cheating wife begged me to think of the baby. I told them all the same thing. The baby deserved love, not lies. The family deserved truth, not parody. And I deserved peace, not spectacle. As I drove away from the house, I glanced in the rearview mirror. For the first time, I did not see an audience. I did not see a stage. I saw nothing but distance, and it was beautiful. But this is America. Stories do not end with clean exits. They linger. They recycle. They get rebranded. A week later, I saw a flyer for a local theater production titled Cheating Wife, a Suburban Tragedy. The promotional photo was my street. The actors were strangers. The plot summary mirrored my life almost perfectly. I stood there in the parking lot with the flyer in my hand and laughed. Of course, because in this country, betrayal is not just an experience. It is intellectual property. And I knew then that the story was not over. Not for me, not for my cheating wife, not for my brother, not for the child. The next act was already being written, somewhere between reality and satire, between pain and parody. The question was not whether it would continue. The question was who would own the script. America loves finales. Sitcom finales, courtroom finales, Super Bowl finales. My life had become all three rolled into one, a finale that demanded fireworks, closure, redemption, and maybe a guest appearance by a celebrity judge. By the time the baby was born, the stage lights of the community had already been set. My cheating wife arrived at the hospital in a carefully curated outfit, hair polished like she was auditioning for a Hallmark movie. My brother filmed everything on his phone, announcing updates to a group chat like a sideline reporter. I stood by the door, half participant, half spectator, wondering how betrayal, cheating, and infidelity could look so much like reality television. The child arrived screaming, as if aware of the scandal that preceded her. The nurse cooed, the doctor smiled, my brother wept, and my cheating wife reached for me. Yes, me, not him. She said, "Hold her, you are still family." That word again, family. It echoed through the sterile hospital walls like a hymn sung off-key. I took the child in my arms, and for a fleeting second I felt the warmth of innocence untouched by betrayal. Then I looked up and saw the reflection of my cheating wife in the window, smiling at herself as if she had won. And I realized the child was not just a baby. She was a prop, a symbol, a bargaining chip in the parody of our American dream. The satire grew monstrous in the weeks that followed. The hospital photos were turned into a glossy spread in the neighborhood newsletter. Local family overcomes infidelity scandal, welcomes new life. My cheating wife posed with my brother, their arms around the child, while I stood awkwardly to the side, a ghost haunting my own story. The caption beneath my image read, "Uncle or father, either way, still family." That was the punchline now. Betrayal rebranded as resilience. Infidelity rebranded as unity. Cheating rebranded as love. America has always been good at rebranding. But satire cannot survive without escalation. Soon there were invitations to talk shows. A producer from a daytime program called Truth and Tears left a voicemail offering us an all-expenses-paid trip to New York. Another producer from a streaming network pitched a docuseries titled Cheating Wife: The American Family Experiment. My brother was thrilled. My cheating wife rehearsed sound bites in the mirror, practicing her mix of vulnerability and defiance. My parents encouraged it, saying it would help us heal in front of millions. I declined. I told them I would not sell my betrayal as content. My brother called me selfish. My cheating wife called me bitter. I called them both exactly what they were: performers. Conspiracy returned when I noticed a man in a suit following me. At first, I thought paranoia had finally eaten me whole. But then I found a business card slipped under my windshield wiper. It bore the logo of a fertility clinic I had never visited. Beneath the logo was a single phrase: "Bloodlines can be negotiated." I dug deeper. I discovered my brother had been in contact with the clinic months before the affair, months before the pregnancy. I unearthed financial records, payments hidden under shell accounts. My cheating wife had been part of consultations. The betrayal had not been an accident. It had been a plan, a grotesque plan to rewrite family history, to secure a legacy by any means necessary. The satire was no longer funny. It was conspiracy masquerading as destiny. I confronted them in the living room, the same room where the Christmas tree once glowed with childhood innocence. I laid the documents on the coffee table like a prosecutor. My cheating wife denied nothing. She said the American family is an invention anyway, that biology is just paperwork, that love is what you choose. My brother argued that betrayal was only betrayal if you let it be, that cheating was just another word for freedom, that infidelity was not a crime but a correction. They sounded like philosophers of chaos, professors of self-interest. I laughed, a hollow laugh that scraped my throat, because the parody had become scripture for them. The community rallied behind them, not me. The pastor preached about new covenants. The HOA issued a statement about unity. The PTA invited my cheating wife to give a keynote on resilience. My brother was asked to coach Little League again. I was asked to step aside for the good of harmony. Betrayal had won the popularity contest. Infidelity had won the election. Cheating had won the war of narratives. So I chose the only rebellion left. I left the script. I packed my car with boxes, left the keys on the counter, and drove until the suburbs dissolved into highways and the highways dissolved into deserts. The road stretched endless, wide, and merciless. For the first time in years, no one was watching. No drones, no neighbors, no laugh track. Just silence. Betrayal had burned down the family. Cheating had poisoned the well. Infidelity had written the headlines. But here, in the empty landscape, none of it mattered. I settled in a small town where no one knew my name. I took a job fixing fences, repairing what others had let break. There was poetry in that. Every nail I hammered into wood was an act of defiance against the parody I had lived. Sometimes at night I would think of the child, innocent, undeserving of the circus. I wondered if she would ever know the truth, if she would ever see past the rebranding of betrayal into family. Maybe she would, maybe she would not. But I knew one thing: the story no longer owned me. Because in the end, America thrives on spectacle, but it forgets as quickly as it consumes. My cheating wife, my brother, the scandal. They would all be replaced by the next headline, the next reality show, the next betrayal turned entertainment. But me? I would not be replaced. I would rebuild, not as a character in their parody, but as the author of my own piece. And if someday the child comes looking for me, I will tell her the truth. Not the community's truth, not the press release truth, not the rebranded truth, the real truth. That her life began in betrayal, cheating, and infidelity, but that she can choose something else. That family is not a performance. That family is not a contract. That family is not a rebrand. It is work. It is loyalty. It is love without audience. That will be my finale. No drones, no applause. Just a father figure speaking the truth in a quiet room while the world outside keeps writing new parodies.